What's up, my nerds? Welcome back. It is so good to see you again. My name is Nate in the Wild. As always, thank you so much for coming back. Sony, once more, dropping absolute bombs this morning with the announcement of not one, not two, but three brand new lenses. We have a 24mm f2.8, a 40mm f2.5, and a 50mm f2.5. All three of these are ultra compact, ultra light, and targeted straight at crazy people like me who like to go do nutso things in the mountains and don't want 75 pounds of camera gear in our bags while we do it. Without further ado, let's get down to it. So the first thing that strikes you about these lenses is just how ridiculously compact and lightweight they are while still being professional quality. They feel great in my hands, honestly. Everyone is familiar with pancake lenses, which are famously very small, but they also tend to be more on the not as good side of things. While these lenses are so small that you might be tempted to call them pancakes, they perform just like their G Master counterparts, which in my opinion puts them in a whole new category. We need a word for lenses that are almost pancake lenses, but still professional quality. Waffle lenses? French toast primes? We'll think of something. To showcase the size, check out the 24mm here next to the Sony 20mm f1.8. The 20mm just absolutely dwarfs it, and that was previously the smallest prime in my bag. Even the 50mm compared to the old Sony Zeiss 55mm is amazingly small. They are just absolutely tiny. They're so small, actually, that the focus hold button looks like it doesn't even really fit on the lens. They downsized this button considerably, and it still barely even fits on there, which is amazing. They're all three pretty much the same dimensions, just over 2.5 inches long. The 24mm weighs 160 grams, and the 40 and 50mm each weigh just shy of 175 grams each. 175 grams. That's only about 6 ounces, meaning that carrying these to the top of a mountain adds less weight to your bag than your celebratory summit beer. Despite all that, they still feel solid. When I saw the specs, on paper, I was expecting these to feel plasticky and cheap at that size and weight, but holding them in my hand, they feel very much like they deserve to be right alongside any other lens in the Sony Prime lineup. The outside feels like it's made of a really nice aluminum. There's nothing cheap about them. It's really, really impressive. Sony has said that these will retail for $5.99 US, which comes out to $7.99 Canadian and $7.99 Australian. Australian dollars, I assume, are basically just like US dollars, but you have to hold them upside down, and I think 45% of them are probably poisonous. All three lenses feature a 49mm front filter thread, 7-blade circular iris for the aperture, aspherical lens elements, and Sony's fantastic low dispersion ED glass. Now, since the construction of all three of these lenses is nearly identical, I'm going to be more or less reviewing them as a single lens, but I'll note which shots are from which lens for those of you who want to know specifically which lens is best in which scenario. So, I did find one downside to lenses being this small, and I think it's honestly the only drawback I found during my testing, but since the lenses are so small, there's basically nowhere to grab them while putting them on and taking them off of your camera. So several times I thought I was attaching the lens, only to find myself grabbing the aperture ring and twisting that, and I didn't end up dropping the lenses during my testing, but knowing myself, honestly, I think if I owned these and I was using them frequently, it would only be a matter of time before that happened. In addition to that manual aperture ring, these lenses feature an autofocus/manual focus switch, a focus ring, and a focus hold button. The aperture ring can be set to auto if you want the camera to control that, and you can actually use the selector switch to turn the aperture ring from clicking to silent operation, which is really nice if you plan on using these for anything video related. All in all, the few minor drawbacks in ergonomics are more than made up for by portability, and to really put that to the test, I headed to the mountains to try and keep up with professional skier Claire Chapman. And I have to tell you, this is where I was really blown away by these lenses. Of course, I could barely feel the weight of them in my bag, which is the main selling point for hardcore adventure photographers like me, but the image rendering and autofocus responsiveness was spectacular. These lenses feature dual linear focus motors exactly like we see on Sony's top-of-the-line G Master lenses, so focus tracking was extremely fast and responsive. Take this series of shots of Claire jumping over me shot on the 24mm. I was unable to see her prior to the launch point, so focus had to be acquired with her already in midair. Now, I shot this on the Alpha 1, which of course is the supreme overlord of fast focus tracking. It's almost cheating how good that camera is, but the lens has to keep up with that top-of-the-line camera, and even on a $6,500 camera body designed for sports, I was impressed by the accuracy of this lens to immediately snap on target within a single frame, and it was fast enough to continue tracking with her as she traveled over me, probably going close to 30 miles per hour. Even when using the 40 and 50mm lenses to track her skiing directly at me, we didn't miss a single shot, despite her being heavily backlit by the sun and dodging left to right on the slope. I think one of the primary concerns people will have about a lens like this is that it's meant for beginners and therefore it's not good enough for professional photographers, and I can say for an absolute fact that the responsiveness of these lenses while shooting Claire skiing in those tough shooting conditions proved to me that they are up for anything you can throw at them. This other series shot on the 50mm shows similar abilities, with the lens easily adjusting focus to track a fast-moving skier. Now, for optical quality, again, I was very impressed. I asked Claire to pose for some portraits, and the sharpness is phenomenal. When I zoom into 100% here, you can see that the 50mm lens had no trouble at all resolving all 50 megapixels of the Alpha 1 sensor. You can literally count individual eyelashes. And as we pan over to the side of the frame, the bokeh is absolutely gorgeous. It's a beautiful drop off from the in-focus parts of the frame. It's super soft, and honestly, it's like almost too uniform. It's flawless bokeh, so I guess if you like lenses with character like that 55mm Sony Zeiss, this might not be the ticket for you, but from a technical standpoint, this lens is very hard to complain about. I suppose it's also worth mentioning that this is an unedited raw image, which is extremely impressive to me. Also, the lens, right out of the box, has beautiful contrast rendering and color depth, just with no adjustments whatsoever. As always, I like to test the ED glass for lens flares, so Pops and I took a hike up to a lake near my house to really give them the old wilderness test, and again, very impressive. You can see that the highlights are bright but soft, and I don't really see any flares or artifacts on this photo of Autumn. Even when positioning the sun directly behind her head, the flares are minimal. If you've watched a few of my other lens review videos, you know that I actually love lens flares, so this to me looks perfect. It's not so intense that it distracts from the image, and in my opinion, it really lends to the scene. I love the way you get just a little bit of those artifacts and a little bit of a bright flare. I'm very happy with the way this looks. Looking at a few other clips, even with heavy backlighting, these lenses render contrast beautifully, have a spectacular soft bokeh, and minimal artifacts. I have to be honest, I never thought I would get to use lenses this small with such professional optics. These are really going to be a game changer for me for my big mountain objectives. Sony cameras have always been small, which is why I made the choice to go to Sony originally, but bringing 3 to 4 lenses on a professional gig is where the weight really starts to add up, and I am so stoked to be able to reduce my pack weight where it really counts. Drop a comment below to let me know what you think of these lenses, and as always, please remember to subscribe, comment, click like, and most importantly, slap a Nate in the Wild bumper sticker on your next door neighbor's car. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.